Well now, hello and welcome to another episode of Brett's Old Time Radio Show. I'm home alone right now as Vikki and the boys are out shopping, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to have a quick chat to you and see how you've been. Everything alright? Weather's definitely turned here in Lyme Bay and things have gotten very cold all of a sudden. Not as bad as my cold. Although I hope you're keeping warm and I hope you're looking forward to Christmas, which is rapidly approaching. I can't believe it's the 3rd. Feel free to send me feedback on any of our shows if you get a moment. Brett@tourdate.co.uk. Welcome to another episode of Brett's Old Time Radio Show and welcome to my home, beautiful Lyme Bay, where it is very, very, very cold today. But the fire's lit, as always, just because I knew you were coming. So let's sit back, dim the lights, and journey back to the amazing old-time radio shows of yesterday. A huge thank you once again for joining me on our regular late-night visit to those dusty studio archives of old-time radio shows, right here at my home on the south coast of the United Kingdom. I'm Brett, your host for our Nighttime podcast. Welcome to another episode. Don't forget, I've got an Instagram page and the YouTube channel. They're both called Brett's Old Time Radio Show, and if you get a moment to follow me, that would be brilliant. Tonight, we're going to get straight into back-to-back episodes of The Avengers.
Now, from the makers of Cold Water Omo...
Got us a bit pinned down, I'm afraid, Mrs. Peel.
Yes, Mr. Puffin, but let's counterattack. Set these balloons you were selling free and burst a few others.
As the balloons floated up from the old street vendor's stall, Blackie, the assassin, worked his way to the back of the stall. The people in the street laughed at the balloons bursting. Mrs. Peel didn't laugh. She waited for Blackie and jumped him. The gun dropped to the pavement. Old Puffin grabbed it. Mrs. Peel was thrown. Blackie staggered back, picked up the sharp scissors Puffin had been using to cut the string of his balloons, and plunged forward to stab Mrs. Peel when... Puffin stood amongst the wreckage of his stall, the revolver in his hand.
Funny. I'm so old, and yet... that's the first time I've ever killed.
The Avengers.
John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers.
Episode 5 of this story, in which John Steed and Mother remain baffled by the whole affair, and Emma Peel is taken away for a case of interrogation. Two young agents, Casper and Minnow, had disappeared mysteriously, and subsequently their contact men had been killed. It was clear that there had been a serious security leak. Wilson and Izzy Pound, Casper's two contact men, had met untimely deaths, and later, faced with these facts, Casper himself had been shot. Charles Minnow's first contact, Fillington, had also died, and Mrs. Peel had forced Mother to tell her the name of the second contact, who was surely in grave danger. The second contact had turned out to be old Herbert Puffin, and this time Mrs. Peel had been lucky. In the struggle in Bridgewell Street, she'd narrowly escaped death. The assassin, Blackie, had been killed. Mrs. Peel was grateful and frustrated.
A dead man is a dead end, Steve.
Yes, see what you mean. He can't lead us to whoever he was working for.
That's right. Still, it has proved quite a few things.
That Minnow must have talked.
Yes.
Well, what's happened to old Puffin?
Well, the balloon went up in every sense. He folded his stall up and disappeared in double-quick time. I don't think he'll be around for some time. Oh, I've no doubt he'll make the contact when things have cooled off. Meanwhile,
a full report to Mother. Any idea who the would-be assassin is?
New to me. The boys at headquarters will run a complete check on the body. They may come up with something.
I wonder what our chances are of picking up Minnow.
Slight.
I'm not so sure. After Casper's 2 contacts had been killed, he turned up as though nothing had happened. Minnow could do the same.
Well, not once they realise we've killed that man. Could be that he arranged all the other deaths. If we've knocked him out, then they may silence Minnow once and for all. He has no more contact.
Could be. Oh, well, let's think of the inner man and not the link man. Lunch, Mrs. Peel?
That afternoon, in Mother's headquarters, Steed and Mother sat over coffee, staring at the forensic reports and photographs.
Well, this is a pretty kettle of fish. Report is clear enough. Accurate description of the man, fingerprints, photographs.
We don't know him. No one does. No police record, nothing.
Even I don't know him, and I pride myself on knowing everyone.
Yes, he's a new fellow, all right.
The whole thing is new, the entire situation. There must be a new organization working. This is dangerous.
And baffling. We haven't got a clue on him.
Anonymous. Like that chap in the photograph. What the devil?
Someone wants to join us.
Well, I'm not expecting anyone.
The concealed door at the top of the gallery started to swing inwards. Someone outside had known the correct number to dial in order to enter Mother's headquarters. Not many people had that privilege.
Minnow's the last link. If only we could find Minnow.
Someone looking for me?
Minnow!
Well, I was just on my way home, but I thought I'd better pop in just in case something urgent had cropped up.
I don't believe it.
Well, then, what's been happening in the jolly old world of intrigue, eh?
Mother looked at Steed. Steed looked at Mother. And they both looked towards the liquor cabinet.
Have a drink, Minnow.
Jolly decent of your mother.
A large one, Mother.
A very large one, Steed. Fine weather for this time of the year, eh?
Well, a little cold, sir.
Your drinks.
Thank you, Steed. And I give you a toast. To absent friends. Will you drink to that, Minnow?
Yes, sir, of course. Cheers.
Absent friends like this man.
Mother shot a photograph of Blackie across the table at Minnow.
Who? Blackie?
You know him?
Yes, of course I do. It's Sergeant Blackie. He works at... Oh, no. I'm not falling for that one. They warned me you might try to trip me up a little.
How trip you up?
Faking Blackie's death like that.
That is no fake, Minnow.
Oh, come.
That is no fake, Minnow. That man, Blackie, or whatever his name is, was shot and killed while attempting to murder Mr. Puffin.
Puffin? But that's ridiculous. How could anyone possibly know about Puffin?
That is what we want you to tell us.
Is he really dead?
Really? We could run you down to the morgue to see for yourself, but that'd be a waste of time. And we don't have time to waste, Minnow. No time at all. Now talk.
Well, I don't know. Well, I ought to contact Mannering first.
Mannering?
Colonel Mannering.
Who's he?
Oh, now come on, Mother. Surely you must know.
I do not know a Colonel Mannering. You will please explain what you're talking about.
If you don't mind, I think I'd like to sit down.
You'd better. Sit down and start from the very beginning, Minnow. We want to know everything.
Mrs. Peel was taking a quiet rest, her feet up and a harmless novel on her lap, when the doorbell rang.
Coming! Yes?
Mrs. Peel, Mrs. Emma Peel.
Yes?
Colonel Mannering, Interdepartmental Security, Head of Oriental Military Studies, my identity cards.
Mannering handed over an elaborate wallet.
You'd better come in.
Thank you. I'd be obliged if you would give the identification papers more than just a cursory glance, Mrs. Peel. I want to be sure that you know exactly who I am and what I represent.
Oh, of course.
Mrs. Peel studied the papers.
Perhaps you would be good enough to let me see your own identification papers.
Of course.
Mrs. Peel opened a drawer in the desk, took out a wallet, and handed it to Mannering.
Thank you.
You're awfully cautious.
Have to be. You watch others, Mrs. Peel. We watch you.
Big brother, hmm?
We would like to think our interest was more, paternal.
Would you like a drink?
No, thank you. Drinking whilst on duty is something we discourage amongst our operatives.
Too bad. I'm not on duty at the moment. Do I take it that you are Colonel Mannering?
I'll get right to the point, Mrs. Peel. I have orders here to escort you to Centre 53, where you will attend the TOHE Refresher Course A7. Perhaps you would like to examine these orders?
I'll take your word for it.
Oh, please, I'd rather you didn't. Here.
Mrs. Peel took the documents and scanned them.
You'll see the course is covered under Secret Security Sealed Instructions number 47, subsection QR 9432.
It says the course is to start immediately.
As of this moment, yes.
But I've been working full out on an assignment for the past 24 hours without a break.
And you are tired?
Very.
Precisely why the course starts immediately, Mrs. Peel. When you are weary, when your endurance can be taxed to the limit.
But the assignment I'm on hasn't finished yet.
It has, as far as you are concerned. Naturally, you have a right to complain to a higher authority. Perhaps you might like to pick up that telephone and call Mother.
I might just do that.
You have already committed a cardinal error, admitting to me that Mother even exists. That will cost you 10 demerit points. A bad start.
Mannering picked up the phone and placed it in Mrs. Peel's hand.
Well, go ahead. Make the call. Although I can assure you it won't do you any good. After all, he selected you for the course.
Very well, Colonel Mannering. But what is the TOHE course, anyway?
A test of human endurance.
In Mother's headquarters, Minnow had been answering questions yet again. Poor Minnow didn't know which side he was on by the time he'd finished.
The TOHE course? Test of human endurance? That's right. That's what he said. The TOHE. Refresher course, A7.
Never heard of it. Oh, well, only one way to find out. Hello, Mother speaking. Put me through to Security Internal. Security Internal? What do you know about TOHE Refresher Course A7? Yes, A7. Well, get hold of someone who does know and ring me back.
Minnow, you say you were taken to Centre 53?
Yes, that's right.
Well, where is it?
In the country. A large house.
Yes, but where?
Well, I don't know. It was part of the security arrangements that I shouldn't know. I was taken there in a closed van. A small, black, closed van.
A small, black, closed van was moving away from the pavement outside Mrs. Peel's apartment. In the front seat, next to the driver, smiling grimly, was Colonel Mannering. Inside, clutching a small suitcase, was Mrs. Peel. You're still lagging way behind, Steed.
The Avengers.
Listen every evening, Monday to Friday, to John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers. Brought to you by the makers of Cold Water Omo. Now, from the makers of Cold Water Omo,
A small, black, closed van turned up the driveway of a country house. It stopped at the front door. The back doors of the van were opened, and Mrs. Peel got out, blinking at the light. Colonel Mannering led her up the steps and into the reception room. At the desk, a man in army sergeant's uniform said,
Good afternoon, miss.
Good afternoon.
Identification, please.
Mrs. Peel produced the necessary papers.
Thank you. Sign here, please, Mrs. Peel.
As Mrs. Peel was signing the register, a door opened and a young man staggered out. He looked very dishevelled and worn out, eyes bloodshot and clothes torn.
Emma Peel. I didn't know you were coming here. Remember me, Paul Mullard? We were in training together.
Why, yes. Yes, of course. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing okay, I think. See you in the bar later. Look forward to that.
Come on, you. We haven't finished with you yet. Come here.
The Avengers.
John Steed and Emma Peel, The Avengers.
Episode 6 of this story, in which John Steed gets on the beam at last, and Emma Peel has her first experience in a case of interrogation. Charles Minnow was more than a little confused. He'd returned to Mother's headquarters in all innocence to find Mother in a black mood. 3 men had died, and it was clear that their deaths were a direct result of a leakage of information from the TOHE refresher course A7 that Minnow had just taken at Centre 53. But Minnow couldn't tell Mother and John Steed where Centre 53 was. He'd been taken there in a small, black, closed van and subjected to the toughening up treatment in strict secrecy. And now, without anyone else being aware of it, Mrs. Peel was about to undergo a similar experience.
This is the key to your room, Mrs. Peel. I'll trust you enjoy your stay.
Thank you. I think perhaps enjoy is the wrong word. Isn't it, Colonel Mannering?
We can at least start off pleasantly, Mrs. Peel. Let's have a drink in the bar, shall we?
Mannering placed a hand under Mrs. Peel's elbow and guided her towards a door. Inside, the bar was filled with officers of all ranks.
I think you will enjoy it in here. Once you're settled in, we've got a jolly fine bunch here, fine spirit of comradeship, and we try to make everyone stay as comfortable as possible.
They appear jolly enough.
Plenty of recreations, too, sports, that kind of thing. I'm particularly concerned about the men's well-being. Afternoon, Johnson.
Afternoon, sir.
Johnson, an RAF man, grinned with a split lip and adjusted a piece of sticking plaster that covered a bruise on his forehead.
Gentlemen, may I introduce Mrs. Emma Peel? This bar is sacrosanct. It's the only place in the whole building where you can relax, where you can switch off. But let me remind you, the course has begun. You may be taken from here and interrogated at any time. Any time at all.
In Mother's headquarters, the bewildered Minnow goes over it all again.
So, Minnow, the course was to test your breaking point, your reliance as an agent.
Well, that's what Colonel Mannering said. He had papers to prove it.
Yeah. Mother? Yes. Yes. Thank you. The course was A7 under the direction of Colonel Mannering?
Yes, Mother, that's it.
Doesn't exist.
But surely...
No course A7 and no Colonel Mannering.
It's clever. You have to admit it's clever.
Turning our own secret bureaucracy into a weapon.
That's right. Tied us up with our own red tape, and it's so simple.
Persuade our agents the course is genuine, get their full cooperation, and then interrogate them for as long as they like.
Until they talk.
But that isn't true. It isn't. I got a Class 1 pass mark. They interrogated me for hours, but I didn't talk. I didn't tell them a darn thing. I swear I didn't talk.
You didn't? Well, then how the devil do they work it?
How? Like this.
Name, my lord. Give me the name.
No.
Yes, my lord. Yes. I want this name. Give me the name, my lord. The name. The name. The name.
No.
Very good, my lord. Jolly good show. First class.
You mean that's it?
We haven't been able to break you. I don't think we ever could.
You mean it's really over?
All over. Except the congratulations. You've passed. Class 1.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Come along, I'll buy you a drink. 2 or 3 if you like. I expect you feel you deserve one.
And so, to the bar.
Well done, my lord. Well done.
Jolly good show.
How about another, sir?
Not just at the moment. I've had 3 straight already. You know, sir, I thought you were kidding me about the Class 1 pass, I mean. Have I really got one?
Take my word for it. Mind you, it was touch and go at one point.
Mind telling me why, sir?
Well, I suppose it can't do any harm now that the whole thing's over. It was when we were questioning you about your contact in Hong Kong. I thought we had you a couple of times there, but you held out. Kept denying you had such a contact. That's good. Say it again, please, Barker.
Yes, sir.
Mind you, the fact that you don't have a contact in Hong Kong must have helped.
Oh, but I do, sir.
No.
Afraid, sir?
Well, you really did well then, didn't you? I didn't suspect you for one moment. You fooled us completely.
Your drinks, gentlemen.
Ah, thank you. Cheers. Yes, you covered the whole thing brilliantly. Who is he, by the way? Someone I know?
I doubt it, sir. Name's George Criddle.
What? Oh, Georgie?
The new name?
Well, if he's the chap I'm thinking of.
Oh, tall chap, glasses, fair, moustache.
That's him. George Criddle. Tall, glasses, fair, moustache. Well, just imagine that. Say, it'd be great to get in touch with him after all this time. Where can I reach him?
Well, I usually contact him at the Fu Young Bar.
George Criddle, the Fu Young Bar, Hong Kong. Must remember that, my lad. Cheers.
Back at Mother's, Minnow is still thinking it out.
I can't see how they could have worked it, Mother.
Hypnosis, perhaps.
No. I'd know. I'm sure I'd know.
You were drugged. They got you under drugs?
But they didn't.
They must have tricked the information out of you in some way.
But that's impossible. Look, from the moment I went into that place, I was on guard. The whole time they were at me, I was watching every point. I didn't relax for one moment. I never told any.
Yes?
Oh. The bar. The bar. In the bar after it was all over. That's how it must have happened. In the bar, the one place where we were allowed to relax, to lower defenses, swap confidences. Oh, I'm sorry, Mother.
Sorrow is a negative after-the-event emotion, Minnow. What we want now is positive thought. Attack.
What do you suggest, Mother?
Mother?
Norton here, Mother. Forensics.
Yes, Norton, what is it?
I'm at Spiel's apartment. I called to give her my findings on the Casper and Minnow cases, sir.
Which are?
Negative, sir.
Only forensics will make a special trip to tell you that they haven't found anything. Get to the point, Norton. Or better still, let me speak to Mrs. Peel.
That's the whole point, sir. She isn't here.
What?
And I found another of those cigarette stubs. The one with the gold filter. They have Turkish and...
Yes. We don't want to hear about that filthy concoction. I can guess the rest. Some clothes are missing.
That's right, sir.
And don't tell me. And her toothbrush. That's all we need.
Mother slammed the receiver back into its cradle and glared at Minnow.
Mrs. Peel is taking a refresher course. Where is that Center 53? You've got to remember, Minnow.
I can't. I just can't. I don't know.
Don't you understand? They've taken Emma Peel. She's different to you and Casper. She's brighter, sharper, more intelligent. Now, they may fool her for a while. Their plan's clever enough to fool anyone for a while. But sooner or later, she's going to realize what's going on. And then, she won't last 5 seconds.
You were taken to a country house.
Yes.
A large house?
Yes.
Old or new?
Old.
How old?
50 years, 100.
Think, Minnow, think. There must be something.
Now, just a minute. Now, you thought we were tricking you with Blackie's death. You thought it was a test to make sure you wouldn't reveal the details of the course A7. Now, what if it all went wrong? What if you'd found yourself on trial for treason? What then?
Then I'd contact Colonel Mannering and he'd clear me. Of course. I have a pigeon, a homing pigeon. Well, I can release it. It goes straight to Center 53.
Oh, come on, get that pigeon and we may get Mrs. Peel and Colonel Mannering.
The Avengers.
Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed The Avengers. We'll be bringing you the conclusion of this story next week. And don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow for The Saint, going live at 5 p.m. GMT. You can email me on brett@tourdate.co.uk, and I'd love to know your thoughts on the show. Thanks for listening. I'll be with you 7 days a week, each and every week, and I'll see you next time on Brett's Old Time Radio Show. Love you. Bye.